tonight, violent outbursts, allegations of reckless behavior. More from today's inquiry into the Titan tragedy.
Don't take risks that are unnecessary with faulty, and I mean faulty, deficient equipment. And everything that came in had anomalies or deficiencies in the product itself.
A South Carolina court hears from an Ocean Gate whistleblower who says CEO Stockton Rush had no regard for safety.
It's the single biggest road contract to be awarded this year, and it means the Team Gushu Highway will finally be finished, about a half century after it was first envisioned.
It's going to be huge for our area, for people and residents on the Southern Shore.
Almost 10 years, not complete. It needed to be complete.
I'll have that story coming up.
I'm here in St. Brendan's, where some residents are at risk of having no heat this winter, as home heating oil deliveries will cease at the end of this month.
We know the community is starting to go downhill a bit, but we'd like to keep it going.
That story coming up on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin with some breaking news tonight. An active search at sea and in the air for a crew member missing from a Coast Guard ship. Crews are searching the area near Portugal Cove. The crew member was on board the ship Vincent Massey when they disappeared. The crew member was noticed missing after the ship arrived in St. John's. Coast Guard says they searched the vessel extensively but did not find the person before beginning a more extensive search. And that search is still underway, and Coast Guard is expected to provide an update as soon as possible. In other news, a second former Ocean Gate employee says he had no faith in the Titan submersible. Whistleblower David Lockridge, an experienced submersible pilot, told investigators his concerns about its design and build were constantly dismissed. Here Now's Heather Gillis has more from today's inquiry in the States.
There's a lot of things on this report that could affect the integrity of this hull.
David Lockridge makes no bones about it. The experienced submersible pilot and ex-U.S. Navy vet blew the whistle on Titan in 2018 after he was fired.
And abomination of a sub.
Lockridge inspected the first version of Titan and made this report, highlighting issues. He says you could shine a light through the first carbon fiber hull. See, it was separating. Lockridge says he identified problems with O-rings, the titanium dome, and objected to a pickup truck bedliner coating the hull. Problems he voiced, but says were dismissed.
But at the end of the day, safety comes first, and anytime you're going in a sub, most important thing is going home safe to your families, not going and making money and pushing the envelope as everybody keeps quoting in the news. It's nothing to do with that. You want to be able to do something safely. Yes, you're taking a risk going down a submersible, but don't take risks that are unnecessary with faulty, and I mean faulty, deficient equipment. And everything that came in had anomalies or deficiencies in the product itself.
Lockridge says Ocean Gate CEO Stockton Rush wanted to keep costs down, jerry-rigging systems, using a shop vac hose and a prototype, and a plastic container as a makeshift carbon dioxide scrubber. He also says Rush was reckless, recalling the founder once slamming a sub of passengers into a shipwreck and getting stuck. Lockridge says Rush wouldn't listen to him and even threw the sub's controller at him.
I embarrassed him in front of clients. He wasn't happy, and I knew that was the turning point in our relationship within Ocean Gate.
Lockridge says he was kept away from the Titan project because he was so vocal. He says Rush and the engineering team had no experience building submersibles.
Now, Lockridge says he flagged all of this to an American Occupational Health and Safety Board and says once he blew the whistle on Titan, Ocean Gate retaliated and sued. According to Lockridge, nothing came of his concerns and his case. Lockridge told the hearing he believes it was inevitable something would go wrong at Ocean Gate and that it was just a matter of time. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, it was first envisioned a half century ago, but the project has been at a standstill for nearly a decade. Now there's a plan to finish the Team Gushu Highway. Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports.
Minister, how are you?
When you're handing out the biggest road contract of the year, it's sure to attract a gaggle of politicians. This afternoon, this was the scene in a gravel pit off Brookfield Road, the latest and final announcement linked to the protracted effort to complete the Team Gushue Highway. And here are the people who will build this 3.3-kilometer section of highway. Bercy's Excavating, the recipients of a $30 million contract. Their job, use that provincial and federal money to complete the twinned bifurcation road from the Trans-Canada Highway south through St. John's and Mount Pearl. Right now, it ends here at Topsail Road, a decade-old dead end. But in a few years, it will look like this, connecting to Commonwealth Avenue, Brookfield Road, and Heavy Tree Road. There'll also be a roundabout corridor connecting to Pitts Memorial Drive and Robert E. Howlett Memorial Drive. Planners first envisioned this north-south artery in the 1970s. Work began in phases nearly a quarter century ago. It got its name after Team Gushue won curling gold at the 2006 Olympics. This newly elected Liberal MHA was a member of that team, and today it sounded like they were ready to change the name.
The team Gushue Highway had to be completed.
The intent is to reduce congestion on municipal roads, cut down on commute times, improve safety, and unlock the area's full economic potential. There were questions about whether it would ever get completed, but these politicians say they are delivering on what others could not.
So it's shovels in the ground here to complete this important project.
It's not just the completion of a highway, it is also the ridding of an inconvenience.
It's a transportation game changer, slicing through some well-known farming area, connecting with busy local roads, gobbling up big amounts of land. But nothing is standing in the way of completing this highway, says the Transport Minister, though he admits the government doesn't yet have all the land it needs.
There are still some negotiations ongoing with area residents.
This small-town mayor says it will reduce the travel time for people accessing services like St. John's Airport.
This opening of the new highway is going to be huge for our area, for Bay Bulls and residents on the Southern Shore.
Bercy's Excavating will start moving earth here in the next few weeks, and this road will be finished, they say, in late 2026. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the MP for St. John's South Mount Pearl says he still has faith in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau despite another devastating by-election loss. Last night, the Bloc Québécois won the seat in the Montreal riding of La Salle-Amard-Verdun, which was held by the Liberals for most of the last century. It's the second by-election loss of a seat the Liberals considered safe in the last 3 months. Trudeau says he'll carry on as Prime Minister into the next federal election, no matter what happens. Well, today in St. John's, Seamus O'Regan called by-election losses normal, but says the party has work to do.
Don't discount this guy who has won 3 elections, despite the numbers. And numbers fluctuate. Political circumstances fluctuate. And if you don't believe that, I have one word for you: Kamala. Things change in politics.
Kamala with a change in a potential leader, though, and that's what some people are calling for in terms of Trudeau.
That's one of many ways that you can make sure that you address people's need for change after a while, right? Because people have been frustrated, particularly post-pandemic, with the cost of living, with inflation, and with interest rates, right? All of those things, by the way, are increasingly going down. Interest rates, inflation, never fast enough for most of us, but we are on the right trajectory, and in fact, we're on a better trajectory than just about any country in the G7.
Well, people living in St. Brendan's may soon lose access to home heating oil. Delivery of furnace oil to homes there will likely stop at the end of this month, and residents are concerned. Here now's Troy Turner has the story.
Cold weather is around the corner, and so is a deadline. North Atlantic will stop home deliveries to St. Brendan's at the end of the month. It's a crisis for the people who use oil for heat. That's about half the homes here.
I bought a new oil tank that they installed in that, hoping that I was going to get another 10 or 15 year here for sure, because the community is starting to go downhill a bit, but we'd like to keep it going. And after I bought it, which was 2 months ago, I found out now that they're not going to deliver oil here anymore, which is a kick in the butt.
Deputy Mayor Jamie Elward heats his home with a wood stove. The oil delivery deadline doesn't affect him personally, but he worries about the other residents.
The impact is you've got a percentage of your population that's without heat. That's the impact. And, you know, as a domestic diesel customer to Newfoundland Hydro, our people don't qualify for any of the rebates for the programs for the conversion from oil to electric. And even saying that, I mean, our rates are considerably higher than those on the mainland of the province under domestic diesel.
Many of St. Brendan's 100 or so residents are seniors. For Aylward, this hits hard.
A fair amount of our population is an elderly population, and so now those people are left with, you know, no means of heat. I mean, we got 40 plus, you know, households here dependent on oil, and at least half, if not more than half of those is 100% dependent as a primary source of heat.
It's about an hour's steam from Burnside to St. Brendan's. In the past, people would roll their own barrels of oil onto the boat. On this modern ferry, North Atlantic has been sending a truck with the oil. The company wouldn't do an interview. In a statement, it said it's divested its home heat business in several regions of the province. Delivery to St. Brendan's will end September 27th.
I'm just hoping and praying that another company would come in, but the oil trucks are still going to come here, as far as I'm concerned, and they're going to be bringing oil to the schools and whatever else they supply, powerhouse and that. I can't understand why they just can't come down with one load of oil for everybody.
Oil delivery will continue to the school, post office, health clinic, and power plant. The mayor is hopeful something can be worked out for the residents before the end of the month.
We've had suppliers change before, but you know, one left, and there was time there was two here, and then they split it up and let one do it. But now to get this notification that they're pulling out and that nobody's coming in, but they're still doing you know, the commercial part of it, you know, rubs people the wrong way.
And those people are running out of time.
We've got to find a solution to this issue. The winter's coming on, and people are anxious now. The residents of this community is anxious now to know what, you know, who's going to fill my tank.
As temperatures begin to drop and winter is just a few months away, the need for home heating oil is becoming increasingly more important. The mayor and deputy mayor say they'll continue to pressure the provincial government with the hopes that they will step in and find a resolution to this problem. Troy Turner, CBC News, St. Brendan's.
Well, a former Crown prosecutor blames the province's Supreme Court for tossing out a St. John's murder case. Last week, a justice ruled the second-degree murder charge against Kurt Churchill took too long to come to trial, passing the 30-month deadline set under the Jordan Principle. Churchill was accused of killing James Cody in 2020. Mike Murray says the Supreme Court needs to better manage its calendar of potential trial dates. He says the provincial court will often double book trials to avoid situations like this from happening.
If you go over to the Supreme Court 4 days out of 5, you know, it's crickets over there. There's hardly anything happening. Most of the courtrooms are empty. And it's because of that refusal to double book or take on other administrative reforms that this is happening. If you look at this case here, look at Churchill's case. I mean, it was 15 months from the not guilty plea to the first trial date, which would only get them 2 months in under the 30-month wire. And then when they had problems with that, the next court date was another 14 months down the road.
Well, Ottawa is negotiating a $500 million bailout for Nova Scotia's privately owned electric utility, saying the money will be used to prevent a spike in rates caused by Muskrat Falls delays. Federal Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson made the announcement yesterday in Halifax. He says Nova Scotia Power needs the money to cover higher costs from the delayed delivery of electricity from Muskrat Falls. Wilkinson says without the money, rates would increase by 19% over the short term. The CEO of Nova Scotia Power says the bailout deal will keep increases limited to around the rate of inflation.
Targa's always gone through my hometown. My parents were volunteers. I always wanted to partake, but I lived away.
It's really fun just to come out here and support him because I know he wants us to be able to watch it.
Point Leamington's Rob Thompson grew up watching Targa Newfoundland. Now he's the one behind the wheel. That's still to come.
They've certainly had some nice weather for it. The trend will generally continue. We're still looking at some showers today. Those are going to roll through as we head through tonight as well. Some warm temperatures still on the horizon. We'll get into all the details coming up.
Before we bring in Ashley with the forecast, just have a look at this video shared by the Joint Search and Rescue teams working in the Atlantic region.
Yeah, late last month, Gander crews rescued someone from a fishing vessel in the Labrador Sea. That passenger was experiencing a medical emergency and was taken to the hospital in Goose Bay.
Wow, that is some incredible footage. What a view there, my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so Ashley, it was a warm day here in St. John's for sure, and some places in the province, it was a really hot day.
It was very summer-like. I know we still have another week or so of summer left, but we start to see some of those cooler temperatures. Let's take a look at some of the warm September temperatures today. This is quite the list out there. Glovertown, 27 degrees was your daytime high. And really through central areas, seeing into the mid-20s, and then even seeing Churchill Falls reach 21 degrees this afternoon. So there was quite a bit of heat, and it is going to continue. So we've got an area of low pressure to the north there. There is a cold front, not much cooler though as far as those temperatures go, because we're still in southerly flow. Much warmer temperatures though over the maritime provinces, but for now we will certainly enjoy that warmth. Temperatures still in the low 20s, 21 degrees in St. John's right now, 24 in Terra Nova. That is the hot spot across the province, and even up across Labrador, 20 degrees still in Lab City. Now, there's a few lightning strikes happening right now around Happy Valley Goose Bay, a little to the north and a little to the south. So over the next couple of hours, we're still looking at that risk, but the cloud cover is starting to dissipate, which is good news, but we do have lots of shower activity moving across the island at the moment, and we're generally going to see that continue as we head through tonight. So expect those shower chances for most of us. Now, in behind that cold front up across Labrador, we should actually see some clearing with the exception of towards the coast. Really anywhere along the northeast coast of the province will see those shower chances tonight and clearing as we head into tomorrow morning. Now, temperatures tonight are going to stay mild again. We're looking at overnight lows anywhere from 14 to 16 degrees. That is around where we should be sitting as our daytime highs for this time of year across the island. For Labrador, single digits, 7 to 9 degrees. And again, 10 is where you should be sitting for the daytime high. So pretty above seasonable in some cases. Cartwright, you'll sit around 11 degrees tonight with that chance of showers. Now into tomorrow, again, the first part of the day will likely see some lingering shower activity along the coast. That should clear out as the day goes on. We should see some sunshine as well through the afternoon. And then as we get into the evening hours, the clouds will move right back in. And then we're also looking at those shower chances moving in as well, right along with it. But this should be, when we see these showers, should be through the overnight period, especially for the west coast, but then heading across the island as we head into early Thursday morning. Thursday at this point is looking a bit unsettled. But for now, we're going to hang on to these warm temperatures. Now, those of you that are going to see onshore flow tomorrow, so northwesterly winds anywhere really along the northeast coast. If you are where the winds blow onshore, your temperatures will be a tad cooler, but most of us should be hanging on to temperatures in the 20s. Bonavista will hover around 19. Again, low to mid 20s expected through central areas as well. Grand Falls, Windsor should reach a high near 25 degrees. Nothing but sunshine, it looks like, for the south coast, 17 degrees for Harbour Breton. And again, that's because you're going to be in a bit of onshore flow. Wind's not overly impressive at all across the island, but we're still looking at those northwesterlies between 15 to 20 kilometers per hour. Overall, daytime highs still pretty lovely, 21 to 24 degrees, and we're looking at a similar temperature profile for the northern peninsula. Just a tad cooler, though, upper teens through the day with some sunshine in the mix as well. Now, Cartwright starting to dip back to around where you should be sitting this time of year, 13 degrees, and we're going to hang out in this pattern for the next couple of days as well. Now, Lab City still 19 degrees tomorrow, winds light, 5 to 10 kilometers per hour. So you'll see a mix of sun and cloud to start the day. But again, these shower chances will move in later on in the day. And Happy Valley Goose Bay as well, 18 degrees rather. So still a pretty beautiful start to the day and a pretty beautiful midweek. We'll get into the long range forecast coming up.
Well, Rob Thompson is tackling Targa 2024. Targa drivers spent the day racing around the Eastport Peninsula and will overnight in Clarenville. Now, yesterday, 16 teams passed through Point Leamington, the hometown of Rob Thompson, who's been watching the rally races since he was a kid, and now he's the one behind the driver's, or in the driver's seat, rather. The CBC's Jeremy Eaton caught up with him last week.
Rob Thompson, driver for Team Newfoundland Motorhead Racing. This is our Subaru STI. It's from a company, Lachute Performance in Montreal. So it's basically a turnkey road track car. It's called the LP400.
How many Targas have you taken part in?
0.
Why are you here? Why do you want to take part in this year's race, Rob?
Well, Targa's always gone through my hometown. My parents were volunteers, and I always wanted to partake, but I lived away in Labrador, so never got a chance to be here in September. This year I'm here, so finally make it happen.
When you're trying to get everything ready and make sure you've got all your ducks in a row, you can tend to leave it too late sometimes too, every once in a while, and then you got to catch up. But yeah, it can be stressful. But once you get out on course, the days start to lighten up a bit, and there's a real good spirit at Targa. Everybody collects pretty close together.
We had a lot of time when I registered in February, and a few days ago I realized I don't have a lot of time left, and it seems like there's always things to do. So, but looking forward to it. It's such a great group of people, and I want to have fun and play with the car for a week and keep it out of the ditch.
How does it feel as a kid, young man, growing up watching this race go through his hometown, now get to drive a car in that race through his hometown?
It's amazing. The course is shortened a bit there this year, but we still get to drive around that area. Some really cool places to see, and roads I'm familiar with. But yeah, it's just absolutely amazing to be able to do that.
My father's racing in Targa for the first time, and I'm here to support him. I'm very excited for him. I'm proud of him. I know he's been wanting to do something like this for a long time, and he loves it. I love cars. He's definitely put that on me, but I've never seen anyone who love vehicles, not just cars, anything with an engine he's in love with. He loves it a lot. He's done some stuff in Montreal at a track and some other stuff by himself, but we've always been busy. We haven't got to support him, so it's really fun just to come out here and support him because I know he wants us to be able to watch it.
Have you ever wondered what lies in your backyard? One St. John's man wanted to find out. I'm Julia Israel, and I'll have that story for you tonight on Here and Now.
Hi, Matt Walsh, host and producer of The Signal. You know, when you think about climate change, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to feel a sense of despair. But when you look around, there are a lot of folks out there engaged in action, trying to make a difference. And that's where we are this week. We're having Climate Week on The Signal, Monday to Friday. The common thread, folks with the will and the want to fix the planet. So don't miss it. Climate Week on The Signal, 12:05 on the island, half an hour earlier in Labrador.
A St. John's man has spent years restoring the interior and exterior of his heritage home. Now he's digging deep into the ground to uncover what lies beneath his backyard. As Here Now's Julia Israel reports, he's brought in a local team of archaeologists to help.
You ever find yourself sitting in your backyard and wondering, is there anything special under here? Yeah, neither do I. But the guy who owns this heritage home behind me actually does think about this stuff. So he hired a team of archaeologists to help him dig up a part of history that could teach us a thing or two about the future.
The bottom of a jam jar.
Tyler Stapleton loves local history. For almost a decade, he's been volunteering with the Newfoundland and Labrador Historic Trust.
I was looking for a house to buy, and I seen this one, and it was all covered in vinyl siding, and a lot of the details were stripped off, but I kind of see what could be. That kind of started the restoration journey, where I've been kind of picking away at it over the last 8 or 9 years.
Like any good history lover, he turned to old records, he got maps from the city archives, and he uncovered a whole business right here in his backyard.
I learned that there was a cooperage, 2-story cooperage here, so quite a large building. And that was a really important industry for Newfoundland back then, Newfoundland and Labrador, you know, exporting fish and that kind of stuff.
A cooperage is where barrels are made. And more than a century ago, that's what Henry Sims did back there. Stapleton found the man's grave, shared a picture on social media, and that got the attention of a new company called Aeronova. And what do you know? One of its founders has a family connection. She's a Sims.
I primarily do community archaeology, and this is the closest to community archaeology you can get doing family archaeology. My great-grandfather grew up here, and then my grandfather grew up across the street, and then I even lived across the street for a little bit with my dad when I was very little.
And Sims has already found pieces of her family's past.
It's been really cool doing my own family's archaeology because I keep seeing things that sort of remind me of my family. So like we found a really cool belt buckle. My pop has a belt buckle collection. We found a stove leg. That was cool because my pop said he knew where the stove was in this structure. And that's just like a tangible connection to, I guess, probably my family who used and wore those objects.
Since online records only go so far, Stapleton needed expert help to fill in the blanks.
I'm hoping to learn more to try to figure out, you know, how did it end up collapsed, and how did the industry, you know, slow down and not be used, and was the building taken apart and dismantled, or did it just rot and collapse? And I don't know, there's still some mysteries here to figure out.
After weeks of painstaking work, the team has a good guess.
We think that this building, one of the walls you can see behind us, collapsed, we think, in the late 60s. But the building itself was probably built in 1899 as stables and then was used as a cooperage from 1902 onwards when a cooper moved in here, Henry Sims. He and his son were making barrels longer than the trade was kind of at its height in St. John's, so they were keeping the trade alive. Stuff like this. We were finding a lot of stuff that looks like this.
In their 6 weeks of work, they've discovered other objects buried beneath the backyard, other stories.
So we think this wall fell down in the late 60s, so we've got stuff from after the 60s, which, you know, we've found kind of like Coke bottles from the 80s and dolls' arms and stuff like that. There's a sock sticking out of the wall there.
There are still questions left to answer, like when was the cooperage built? But they're finding value in everything she uncovers.
Exposing trash is part of what archaeologists do. It just depends how old the trash is, and one man's trash is another man's treasure. So.
A passion project that's as significant for Sims and her family as it is for the homeowner.
A really funny thing is that my great-great-great-grandfather, I guess, was a prohibitionist, but we are finding an awful lot of alcohol bottles.
And it won't all stay in the past. Stapleton wants to rebuild the two-story cooperage, not something the city would usually permit unless a property is protected under heritage status.
A lot of people can see heritage as like a negative point, heritage being, anti-development. Development and heritage can coexist perfectly fine. And it can also really help with development. And that's part of a shoe.
The city's new Housing Accelerator Fund supports homeowners building additional housing on their property, giving the potential backyard restoration another life down the line.
Down the road when I'm finished with the workshop, when someone else wants to be a caretaker of this house, then maybe someone could live in this building. So that's like the adaptive reuse of heritage. That's really, really interesting. I always have to look ahead.
Looking ahead while also uncovering and preserving part of the past. Julia Israel, CBC News, St. John's.
We've had a long dispute with the federal government on equalization, and it's not fair. The people of the province don't get the returns that are deserved to them.
Well, another hit for Justin Trudeau's Liberals today, but where does the Conservative leader stand on issues important to this province? That's what the Premier wants to know. That's just ahead. The town of Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, is going all in on electric vehicles. It recently replaced 6 gas-powered vehicles with 6 new electric cars and trucks. But while these vehicles are designed to save on carbon emissions, they've already saved the town a ton of green. Here now, Zach Gowdy hit the road for this story.
Mayor McDonald, what do you think of the ride so far?
It's beautiful. First time I was in an electric vehicle.
Oh, yeah?
And I didn't even realize it was started. So very smooth, and well, I'm glad we got them.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Mayor McDonald, nice to see you.
You too.
These are some real pretty vehicles you've got here.
They are indeed.
Well, just tell me about them.
Well, this is the beginning of the replacement of our gas-powered fleet, and we have almost all of our electric vehicles here to show off for you today.
Oh, well, you know, the best way to show them off is to take them for a drive. Can we go for a spin?
Okay, yes, let's hop in.
I agree.
Okay.
After you.
Let's go.
Ooh. Roomy. This is your town, so you take me for a ride.
Okay.
See the sights. Still got that new EV smell.
Does indeed. Hi, my name is Jody Murray. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the town of Portugal Cove, St. Phillips.
Where did this journey sort of begin for the town? How did this EV project get on the road in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips?
So we started by getting baseline carbon emissions to be able to set some targets to where we wanted to go. And when we did the baseline research, we found that it's actually almost 80% of all our greenhouse gas emissions comes from our transportation.
It's great to have the EVs, but aren't they kind of expensive?
So they are really expensive if we had to go out and pay full price for them. But because we partnered with Fundamental Inc. and Federation of Canadian Municipalities, we were able to get 80% funding. So these 6 vehicles and 6 charging stations cost the town about $80,000.
$80,000? You couldn't get one gas-powered truck for $80,000 today in a lot of cases.
That's right.
That's a huge savings.
Yes, it is. You know, we were about to replace 6 gas-powered vehicles, which would have cost the town $248,000. So we've seen significant cost savings by having this pilot project in the town.
How was the town able to unlock so much money to go towards this purchase?
I think we were lucky enough to be a forerunner in applying for the funding for a total fleet replacement. So this is just the start of it. We actually had to get rid of the 6 vehicles that this replaced, and it's our commitment to replacing the entire fleet. Phase 3 would be the introduction of heavier equipment, whether it be garbage trucks or loaders or snow clearing equipment. So we are moving in the direction to have a fully electric fleet.
Hi, I'm Carol McDonald, Mayor of Portugal Cove, St. Phillips since 2017.
How important is it that the town be seen to be taking this leadership role, that people see that the town is stepping up and getting in the driver's seat, so to speak, of this fight against climate change?
It is very, very important, and I think the town realizes it. The residents of the town are very involved with the environment. They're very protective of the environment, and I'm so glad that we took the initiative. Being this beautiful town, it's very important that we look after the environment, we protect the environment.
For a town the size of Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, just how challenging is it to take concrete steps to reduce your carbon emissions?
Well, I guess challenging enough that this started in 2018 and we didn't see our first vehicle till 2023, 2024. I presented at Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador last year and, you know, encouraging small and other towns to really look at the part that they play in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. I think that we are environmental leaders in many aspects. We've got great members of our community who really support those types of initiatives, and I think this is a great project for this town, and it's something for residents to be very proud of.
Well, as we reported earlier, voters have dealt Justin Trudeau another devastating by-election blow. A Montreal riding that's been held by the Liberals for most of the last century has just elected a Bloc Québécois candidate. Meanwhile, the NDP is edging out the Conservatives in Manitoba. The NDP's Leila Dance narrowly won her Manitoba riding, and in Quebec, another by-election loss for the Liberals. The Bloc Québécois squeaked out a victory in the Montreal riding, which was long seen as a Liberal stronghold. This is the second by-election upset for the Liberals after losing in Ontario's Toronto St. Paul's earlier this summer. Well, the Prime Minister says his party has a lot of work to do. And meantime, Andrew Furey says he's interested in making progress on provincial issues, regardless of what party is in power. The Premier spoke with reporters today and says when it comes to issues like equalization and daycare, he still doesn't know where the Conservative leader stands.
You know, we here have expressed differences of opinions with respect to the federal government and have always made it very clear that we are fighting for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians first and foremost, regardless of brands. And we'll fight for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians on the carbon tax, on equalization, and on COD and on other files that we don't agree on. We agree on a lot, but we don't agree on those, just as an example. And we'll always make sure that we stand up for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians first and foremost when it comes to our resources in particular.
How would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Poilievre?
I've never met the man. I don't know anything about the man other than what I see on TV, the same as everybody here. I do have concerns that he is not given direct answers to what he do with childcare, to what he do with equalization, to what he do with dental care. All of these are reasonable questions to ask what could be the future Prime Minister of the country. Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we understand the value of daycare, for example. I'm very concerned what would happen with daycare, and I think it's a reasonable question to be posed to him. What would you do, sir? You're going to keep it? You're going to cancel it? Because voters here like it. They need it. It's not only a good social program, it's a great economic program, and it's one that we started even before the federal government. So as a Premier of the province, I want to know where he stands on daycare. I also want to know where he stands on equalization. We've had a long dispute with the federal government on equalization, and it's not fair. The people of the province don't get the returns that are deserved to them. The whole formula needs to be reevaluated. So where does he stand on equalization? Is he going to reopen that discussion with the provinces so that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians can get their fair share of equalization? Or is he just going to punt it and not talk about it in the election? These are all questions that, in this feeling of change that seems to be present, that people need to, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians need to ask that man where he stands on all these issues.
Where do you stand on, just a recent poll that suggests the Conservatives could win 230 seats in the next election?
Yeah.
Do you believe that the leadership of those federal Liberals right now is where it needs to be?
Terry, as I've said, and I will continue to say, my job is to argue and stand up for and fight for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, regardless of who's in power.
Yes, it's the only rally race of its kind in North America. Jeremy Eaton will be bringing you more stories from the Targa track this week, showcasing some of the cars and introducing you to the racers behind the wheel.
Hey there, I'm Corey Finkelstein, and I come from Wasaga Beach, Ontario, and this is my 2018 C43 AMG. And this car has been stickered up for Targa, and I'll just give you a little bit of a breakdown on some of the stickers here. So this Oakley thermal nuclear protection sticker was very emotional for me when I put it on the car, and the reason for that is back in 1987, my first car was a Honda Civic 1500S, and I remember getting this sticker and putting it on the windshield of my car and just thinking it was so cool, and I had that sticker on there the entire time I owned the car. So putting this on did bring a little bit of emotion to me for sure. Now moving towards the back here, we've basically unwrapped a Dixie cup and converted it into Newfoundland colors and splashed it across the car. And if we go around to the back here, very important in Targa to have your competitor names so that people know who's driving and navigating. So that's our name stickers. And then our team name is actually NSYNCHRO Racing. And so it's a bit of a homage to the boy band NSYNC from the 1990s. And so that's why we're NSYNCHRO. And then we have a marketing company that we run for automotive events called Circleback Social. And so this sticker is done in the Martini livery, but in Newfoundland colors. So that's why we have Circleback Social. And then of course NSYNCHRO again on the back so people know who we are, because most of the competitors are going to be looking at the back of our car, not the front of it. So we wanted to make sure that that was front and center for them.
And the Targa folks, they've been getting some pretty nice weather.
They certainly
for
have.
their races, for sure.
Can't complain.
So tonight, Ashley, a lunar triple header happening tonight. Can you tell us what's going to be happening this evening in the skies?
Yeah, so first of all, we've got the harvest moon. That's a September moon. Then it is a super moon. So that just means it appears bigger than it typically would because it's closer to the Earth. And then we've got a partial lunar eclipse tonight. So it is kind of exciting what's going to happen. I have a little graphic here for you just to kind of show you what's going on. Let's take a look at that. So the partial eclipse will begin at 11:42 Newfoundland time tonight. And the maximum eclipse, it happens fairly quickly. And there's only a small part of the moon that will actually be eclipsed. But that will happen around 12:14 in the morning, and then by 12:45 the eclipse will be done. So there's what it will look like when you look out the door or out your window or outside at all tonight. Unfortunately, it doesn't look likely that we will see the lunar eclipse. Now, there's certainly a possibility in some cases. It is just going to be a mix of cloud cover tonight and the chances of showers as well. This is around midnight, at least what the models are pointing at for the sky conditions, the viewing conditions. But if you're up and you happen to look out the window, let's hope for clear skies. And if you do get to see it and you capture any photos, I'd really love it if you could send those in for us to show on the show. The other thing that watching, speaking of the moon or the sky, the sunsets are getting later and later. We have a couple more days of 7 p.m. sunsets. Tonight, 7:07 will be when we see the sunset. And then 1 week from now, we're back to only 6:53. And in 3 weeks, by the time we get into the beginning of October, our sunset time's down to 6:25. And then the first week of November, we fall back and we'll lose a whole nother hour. Certainly happening quite quickly, it feels like, for sure. And the summer-like weather, though, certainly sticking around. As we get into Thursday, though, things are going to change a little bit. We're going to see way more rainy conditions across the island and up across Labrador. Shower chances continuing again along the coast. And same thing through central areas of Labrador, especially as we head into the afternoon. But again, that northerly flow will cool things down. We're back down to the teens, only about 14 degrees in St. John's. A little warmer, though, through central and the west coast as you hover in the mid to upper teens, and then up across Labrador. It's still well above where you should be sitting at 17 degrees in Lab City with sunshine, but those temperatures are certainly going to cool down, and we're going to see that again. This trend, this cooler trend is going to continue through the weekend and into the beginning of next week as well. Again, unsettled conditions through Friday with the shower chances towards the coast as well of Labrador, and then more in the way of showers through central Newfoundland or central Labrador as well. And again, temperatures are going to cool down, especially towards the coast. 7-8 degrees through the day. 13 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay, still hanging on to those upper teens in the west, but the rest of the island is going to sit somewhere between 12 to about 16 degrees. Long range forecast, more of that in there. Saturday and Sunday looking pretty unsettled across St. John's and eastern Newfoundland at 12 degrees. The overnight lows, you notice, aren't moving too much Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but dipping into the single digits for your Sunday. Similar forecast for central Newfoundland with similar temperatures. It's actually a little cooler on Sunday. And the weather for western Newfoundland looks a little bit better. Some chances of showers on Saturday, but a mix of sun and cloud in the mix there as well. Now for eastern Labrador, you're looking at showers for your Saturday. Otherwise, a nice stretch of sunshine, just some cooler temperatures in western Labrador. I mean, that's a pretty good forecast for a September day, that is for sure. And speaking of sun, and this one's a beautiful sunset of Penny. This enjoying the sunset in Conception Bay South. Thank you to Yolanda for that. If you have any photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that's so sweet. Penny does look like she's just sitting there enjoying the
sunset. I mean, who doesn't?
Oh, yeah. And the moon tonight. So if you get a good view of either the lunar eclipse at around 12:15 tonight is going to be maximum lunar eclipse, or the super moon, take a picture and send it to us. We'd love to see it. Okay, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.